So the first case we're going to analyze when talking about Mexico as a complainant is case DS-344, which is a case that Mexico made against the United States, more specifically talking about the zeroing methodology that they were using in their anti-dumping procedures. So this case was actually first filed by the European Union, and because they found out that the United States was using the zeroing methodology that is basically can only happen when doing anti-dumping procedures, and so many countries followed as they found out that they were being affected by this thing too. Mexico was one of these countries and was basically they made this case through the WTO, and many things happened during this time. Actually it took I think around 7 years to complete this, to close the case, and at the end basically Mexico and the United States reached an outside agreement outside the WTO, I mean, and so basically the specific product at issue was stainless steel sheet and stripping coils.
Another dispute settlement case in which Mexico was the complainant was the dispute settlement case DS-359 with the other party, which was China, and Mexico was complaining about certain measures granting refunds, reductions, and exemptions from taxes and other payments. So in February 2007, Mexico requested consultations with China, with the dispute settlement body, and they were claiming that China was violating the Article 3 from GATT, which is the national treatment article. They were saying that China was treating different foreign companies, in this case Mexican companies, from those local ones. So, and then they also said that they were violating the accession protocol, the paras 7.2 and 7.3, which talked about non-tariff measures, and China could not introduce or reintroduce these non-tariff measures, which they were violating those two, and 10.3, which talk about the subsidies that Chinese governments were giving to their local enterprises, and that will create an unfair environment for the foreign companies.
The next case is between Mexico and the United States, where Mexico is filing the complaint against the United States, and the product that is in case is tuna and all tuna products, because in 2014 the United States imposed a dolphin safe label on the tuna products that were to be exported in the US, and they said that Mexican tuna products were not consistent with this label, and therefore could impose some quotas and be against the entry of some Mexican tuna products on the States. And so Mexico requested a panel after the United States in 2016 changed its rules, but still the WTO agreed with Mexico that there was still some discrimination against Mexico, and therefore in 2017 the WTO imposed a fine, allowed Mexico to impose a fine of more than $100 million to the United States.
Of the case DS-295 that is concerned between Mexico and the United States, talking about the anti-dumping measures that Mexico inflicted to the United States in the industry of beef and rice. This case was developed in the year of 2003. Mexico was the respondent to the case and the United States was the complainant. The main topic that they addressed in this case was the Mexican anti-dumping measurements and the rice that came from the northern neighbors, in the rice that came from the United States. United States argued that this caused a violation to the rights or laws that were accepted in the World Trade Organization, and this created a great conflict between the countries. On June 16 of 2003, the United States requested a consultation with Mexico, trying to get to a final conclusion in this case. But it was until 2005 when the United States ended up calling for a panel to the World Trade Organization and started to argue that Mexico was violating the Articles 3, 5, 8, 6, 9, 11, and 12. In the next years, Mexico also was found guilty.
So a second case of Mexico as a respondent was the case DS-298, filed by Guatemala against Mexico. And basically this was a very short case. It only lasted for 2 years. So at first Guatemala filed this complaint by saying that Mexican custom rules, procedures, and administrative practices that they imposed officially established prices for customs valuation and other purposes. So these they said Guatemala was saying that some of their products were being affected by these practices made by the Mexican government that weren't actually complying with the WTO agreement. So they filed this complaint, and they focused in general footwear and brushes that were two products that were specifically more affected than the others in this specific case. And finally, 2 years later, after they filed this case, Guatemala informed the WTO that they had found an agreement with Mexico, and that they were going to find a better solution that they both agreed with outside of the WTO. So basically, it helped that Guatemala filed this complaint helped to get attention to this case, helped Guatemala get the attention of the Mexican government in order to solve this case. So at the end, it was good that they intervened through the WTO, but the agreement was settled outside of it.
And we'll talk to you about the case DS-516. On December 12, 2016, China requested regulations with the European Union and concerning certain provisions to the European regulation, pertaining to the determination of normal value for non-market economy. Countries in anti-dumping proceedings involving products from China. China claimed that the measures appear to be inconsistent with Articles 2.1 and 2.2 of the anti-dumping agreement and Articles 1 and 6 from the GATT 1994. On December 20, 2016, Vietnam requested to join the consultation, and on December 22, 2016, Australia, Canada, Japan, and the Russian Federation and the United States requested to join the consultations, and on January 4, 2017, Mexico requested to join the consultations.
Finally, as a conclusion, we can argue that the WTO dispute settlement process is essential for its right functioning, because we have seen there has been more than 100 cases filed by the United States, around 46 filed by Mexico, around 80 filed by China, and many other countries. So this means that international trade is a very difficult topic to deal with, especially when thinking that there are many countries that have different rules and procedures, and you have to have this organized and basic way to deal with all of these cases. And so we think that the WTO provides a very functioning way to dealing with these cases.